In the quiet of a Colorado dusk, where the mountains cast long shadows over our small town of Riverbend, I, Emily Harper, once stood on the edge of a life I thought was mine. It was 1995 when flannel shirts and faded jeans defined our world, and the local factory's job quotas dictated who could stay in town and who'd be sent to the rural work programs beyond the peaks. That year, I risked everything to save my fiancé Michael Bennett from the icy grip of the Colorado River during a community hiking trip gone wrong. The water was bone-chilling, the current fierce, and my lungs burned as I dragged him to shore, my body trembling from cold and effort. The crowd that gathered didn't see my sacrifice. They saw scandal. Our embrace in the water necessary to save his life sparked whispers of impropriety in our tight-knit conservative town. A girl like that clinging to a man in public, they murmured, their voices sharp as the winter wind. Michael, bound by the gossip and our existing engagement, had no choice but to marry me, though his heart was never mine. For 30 years, I poured my soul into that marriage. I cooked his meals, mended his clothes, and cared for his aging parents, hoping love would grow like wildflowers in the Rockies. I gave him a son, Ethan, bright and curious, who filled our home with laughter, until he didn't. Michael's heart remained tethered to his first love, Diana Larson, a woman whose charm masked a calculating ambition. He believed I'd schemed to trap him into marriage, that my leap into the river was a ploy to bind him to me. The truth was more straightforward. I loved him foolishly, unquestioningly, and I thought time would soften his heart. But Michael's resentment festered. He saw my every gesture as manipulation, my every tear as deceit. When Diana died in a tragic car accident years later, Michael's grief consumed him. He followed her into death, leaving a note that read, "I can't live without her." His suicide was a slap that shattered my illusions, a cruel reminder that my 30 years of devotion were a joke to him. Worse still was Ethan's betrayal. Our son, swayed by Michael's tales of my supposed scheming, grew to resent me. He blamed me for his father's pain, believing I'd kept Michael from Diana. In my final days, my heart weakened from years of strain damage traced back to that freezing river plunge required emergency medication. Ethan, in a fit of vengeance, poured those pills down the drain, watching as I gasped in agony, my vision fading. "You ruined Dad's life," he spat, his voice cold as the river that nearly killed me decades before. As my heart gave out, a shimmering light enveloped me, warm and radiant, like the glow of a mountain sunrise. It wasn't death's darkness, but a divine gift, a second chance to rewrite my fate bestowed by some cosmic force that saw my suffering and deemed it unjust. I closed my eyes, not in defeat, but in anticipation of a new beginning. As I share this story, I'm struck by how life's twists mirror the tales we tell around campfires here in Riverbend. If my journey resonates with you, hit that like button to let me know. It's like a nod across the diner counter. Comment your thoughts. I'd love to hear how you'd rewrite your past. And if you want more stories of second chances, subscribe to this channel. It's like signing up for the next town festival full of surprises and heart. My past life taught me that love can be a trap and ambition is also possible. This is the story of how I learned to choose myself, to walk away from a man who never saw my worth, and to find a love that warmed my heart like the Colorado sun. In those 30 years, I sacrificed more than my health. The river's cold seeped into my bones, leaving me frail. My body racked with pain during every menstrual cycle, each one a reminder of that fateful day. Childbirth was a battle, my weakened body struggling to bring Ethan into the world. I told Michael again and again that the river had changed me, that my health was a casualty of his rescue, but he dismissed me. "You're exaggerating," he'd say, his eyes cold, "using your so-called pain to keep me here." I clung to hope, believing love could melt his icy heart, but ice remains ice, no matter how fiercely you try to warm it. My mother, Clara Harper, who was blind since childhood, carried her own guilt. She believed her disability forced me into that marriage, as marrying Michael, a respected teacher with a factory job, kept me from the rural work programs that loomed over those without urban quotas. In Riverbend, quotas were lifeblood, determining who could stay in the town's fading industrial hub and who'd be exiled to toil in distant fields. Clara's voice, trembling with self-blame, still echoes in my memory. "If I weren't a burden, you wouldn't have needed Michael," she'd say, her hands clutching her cane. My father, a Vietnam War veteran, had died a decade before leaving us vulnerable. His brothers swooped in, claiming our family's quota slots, arguing that a blind widow and her daughter didn't deserve them. Without Michael's status, I'd have been sent to a rural program, leaving Clara at the mercy of relatives who saw her as a liability. I didn't fear the countryside's hard work, but couldn't abandon my mother. So I stayed with Michael, serving a man who saw me as a schemer raising a son who'd one day betray me. Ethan's cruelty was Michael's legacy, a twisted reflection of his father's belief that I was the villain in their story. That past life was a lesson in futility, a 30-year ache that ended in betrayal. But as the divine light wrapped around me, I felt a promise, a chance to undo my mistakes, protect Clara, and find a love that didn't demand my destruction. I wasn't just reborn. I was reborn with purpose, ready to rewrite my story in the shadow of the Rockies, where the river still flowed, but my heart would no longer freeze. The Colorado River roared before me, its icy waters glinting under the pale January sun in 1995. I stood on the Riverbend riverbank, my wool coat half unbuttoned, the crowd's shouts ringing in my ears. "Somebody save Michael. He can't swim." My hands trembled, not from cold, but from memory. Moments ago, I'd been dying Ethan's betrayal, fresh the divine light pulling me from death's edge. Now I was here 30 years back, the air thick with the scent of pine and the chatter of a 90s crowd in flannel and denim. Billboards touting local diners and cassette stores lined the road, confirming the impossible. I'd been reborn, returned to the day that defined my past life's misery. My breath caught as I realized the weight of this moment. In my last life, I'd jumped into that freezing river to save Michael Bennett, nearly drowning. My health shattered my future, chained to a man who despised me. This time, I wouldn't repeat that mistake. A strange warmth pulsed in my chest, like a guiding star urging me to turn away. It was the same divine light that had reborn me now, whispering of a new path, one where I could protect my mother, Clara, and myself. I buttoned my coat, the crowd's murmurs fading as I stepped back from the edge. My eyes scanned the faces, neighbors, factory workers, kids with Walkmans, until they landed on a figure in the distance, hauling a water jug toward my house. Jacob Carter, my father's army buddy's son, was a man whose quiet strength had been a lifeline in my past life. He'd vowed to care for me and Clara after Dad's death, a promise I'd once dismissed as formality. Now it was my salvation. I turned from the river, my boots crunching on the gravel, and headed home, leaving Michael to his fate. As I walked, memories of Jacob flooded back. In my past life, he'd been a constant presence, a skilled mechanic at the Riverbend factory, respected for his precision and work ethic. He'd never married, a choice I'd never questioned until now. He'd bring water to our house, fix Clara's creaky porch, and stand up to Michael's arrogance when no one else would. His dark eyes held a kindness that Michael's never did, but I'd been too blinded by my love for Michael to see it. Now reborn, I saw Jacob, clearly a man who'd kept his promise through decades of my suffering. The factory's job quotas, a relic of Riverbend's post-industrial decline, meant marrying someone like Jacob, a designated skilled worker, could secure my place in town, sparing me the rural work programs that threatened to separate me from Clara. The town's streets unfolded around me, lined with modest bungalows and pickup trucks, the air buzzing with gossip about the river incident. I passed the diner where Clara and I used to share milkshakes, her laughter a rare light in my past life's darkness. She'd been my anchor, her blindness sharpening her other senses, her love fierce despite her guilt. I couldn't let her down again. The rural programs weren't just about labor. They were a sentence to isolation, leaving Clara vulnerable to my uncle's cruelty. Jacob was my way out, but more than that, he was a chance at something tangible, a life not built on sacrifice, but mutual care. As I neared home, a commotion pulled me back to the riverbank. I turned to see Michael climbing ashore, his strokes strong and practice starkly contrasting to the helpless man I'd saved in my past life. The crowd gasped, then cheered, but I frowned. He shouldn't know how to swim, not yet. He'd only learned after our marriage years later. Before I could process this, he spotted me, his wet hair plastered to his face, eyes blazing with triumph and accusation. "Emily Harper," he shouted, striding over, shivering but defiant. "You thought you could trap me again. I've trained for years. The heavens gave me a second chance to save myself." My heart raced. Michael, too, had been reborn. Touched by the same divine light that had pulled me back, his words confirmed it. He remembered our past life, his resentment, his belief in my scheming. But I wasn't the same Emily. I was leaving Michael, I said, my voice steady. I didn't plan to jump in. His eyes narrowed, noticing my fully buttoned coat. You're lying, he snapped, but a gust of wind hit and he shivered violently. Please give me your jacket, I'm freezing. His entitlement stung a reminder of the man who'd dismissed my pain for decades. I turned to the crowd, my voice clear. Can someone lend Michael a jacket? He's asking a woman to strip in public, and I'm not comfortable with that. Laughter rippled through the onlookers, their faces shifting from concern to amusement. Michael, a respected teacher, had never been mocked like this. His cheeks reddened, but he forced a smile. I nearly drowned, and my fiancé stood there doing nothing. I'm done with her. I'm breaking off our engagement right here, right now. Emily Harper and I are through. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others skeptical. Didn't he swim out himself? One man muttered. I seized the moment, my voice calm but firm. Michael, you swam just fine. Why would I jump in? You don't need saving. His jaw tightened, but he pressed on. You let me drown, Emily. I can't marry someone like that. I nodded unfazed. Fine. The engagement's off. You heard him, everyone. The crowd's whispers grew, but I felt lighter, free. I turned and walked away, the river's roar fading behind me, the divine light's warmth guiding me toward Jacob, toward a future I could choose. The Colorado River churned behind me, its icy waters, a stark reminder of the life Emily Harper had left behind. It was January 1995, and the Riverbend crowd, bundled in flannel and denim, their breath visible in the crisp air, watched as Michael Bennett, my former fiancé, climbed ashore with confident strokes. His emergence shattered the narrative of my past life, where I'd nearly drowned, saving him from these same waters. Now reborn by a divine light that had pulled me from death's edge, I stood firm, my wool coat buttoned, refusing to repeat that sacrifice. Glinting with triumph and accusation, Michael's eyes locked onto mine as he strode forward, dripping and shivering. Emily Harper, he shouted, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the onlookers. You thought you could trap me again. I've trained for years. The heavens gave me a second chance to save myself. The crowd, factory workers, diner regulars, kids clutching Walkmans, shifted uneasily, their whispers a low hum. I realized the truth in a heartbeat. Michael, too, had been reborn, touched by the same radiant force that had granted me this new beginning. In my past life, he'd been helpless in the river, his inability to swim forcing my desperate plunge. Now his practiced strokes betrayed a knowledge he shouldn't have, not until years after our marriage. My mind raced, piecing together the implications. He remembered our 30 years of resentment, his belief that I'd schemed to bind him to me, his love for Diana Larson. Yet here I was, free of that burden, guided by the divine light's warmth to forge a new path with Jacob Carter, the man who'd vowed to protect me and my mother, Clara. Michael's accusation hung in the air, his face flushed cold and defiant. You stood there, Emily, ready to play the hero again, to guilt me into staying. I met his gaze, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. I was leaving, Michael. Look at me, my coat's buttoned. I'm done with you. His eyes darted to my jacket, the buttons neatly fastened, and his confidence faltered. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others skeptical. A woman in a plaid scarf whispered, Didn't he swim out just fine? Michael, sensing the shift, pressed forward, his teeth chattering. Please give me your coat, Emily. Can't you see I'm freezing? His entitlement stung, a bitter echo of the man who'd dismissed my pain for decades, blaming me for the health issues that stemmed from that river rescue. I turned to the crowd, my voice clear and firm. Can someone lend Michael a jacket? He's asking a woman to strip in public, and I'm not comfortable with that. Laughter rippled through the onlookers, sharp and mocking. A man in a trucker hat chuckled. Come on, Bennett, have some shame. A respected high school teacher, Michael had never faced such public ridicule. His cheeks burned, but he forced a smile, his voice rising over the wind. I nearly drowned, and my fiancé did nothing. I'm breaking off our engagement right here, right now. Emily Harper and I are through. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and doubt. He swam out himself. A factory worker muttered, Why's he making a scene? I seized the moment, my heart steady, the divine light's warmth urging me on. Michael, you swam just fine. Why would I jump in? You don't need saving. His jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with frustration. You let me drown, Emily. I can't marry someone like that. The accusation was absurd, but I saw his strategy to paint me heartless and salvage his pride. I'd have crumbled in my past life, desperate to prove my love. Now I stood taller. Fine, I said, my voice cutting through the cold. The engagement's off. You heard him, everyone. Michael Bennett ended it, not me. The The crowd's whispers softened, some nodding in approval, others still uncertain. A teenage girl in a Nirvana t-shirt muttered she was going to jump in, wasn't she? I saw her coat half off. I didn't flinch. I thought about it, I admitted, but Michael didn't need me. He's a strong swimmer. My calm response shifted the mood. Heads turned, eyes narrowing at Michael. He clenched his fists, his face a mix of anger and embarrassment. "You're twisting this, Emily. You always do." But the crowd wasn't buying it. A man in overalls called out, "It sounds like you just wanted an excuse to ditch her Bennett." I felt a surge of triumph, not just for outmaneuvering Michael, but for reclaiming my voice. In my past life, I'd let gossip and his accusations define me, my health ruined by the river, my heart broken by his indifference. Now I was free. The divine light had given me clarity, and I wouldn't waste it. I turned from the riverbank, my boots crunching on the gravel, and headed toward home where Clara waited. Her blind eyes could not see my resolve, but her heart was sure to feel it. Michael's voice faded behind me, drowned out by the river's roar and the crowd's shifting allegiance. As I walked, I thought of Jacob Carter, the man whose promise to my father had been a lifeline in my past life. He'd been more than a friend, a quiet protector, fixing our porch, delivering water, standing up to Michael's arrogance. In Riverbend, where factory jobs were scarce and rural work programs loomed, Jacob's status as a skilled mechanic offered a way to keep Clara and me in town. But it wasn't just pragmatism driving me. The divine light's warmth seemed to point toward him, a sign that my future lay not in repeating past mistakes, but in embracing a man who'd always seen my worth. The riverbank confrontation had severed my ties to Michael, but it was only the beginning. I needed to find Jacob to secure a future where Clara and I could thrive free from the shadows of betrayal. The streets of Riverbend unfolded before me, lined with modest bungalows and rusted pickup trucks, the air thick with the scent of pine and the hum of 1995 Life cassette tapes blaring from open windows, kids on bikes weaving through the dusk. I, Emily Harper, hurried home, my heart racing from the riverbank confrontation with Michael Bennett. The divine light that had reborn me still pulsed faintly in my chest, a guiding warmth urging me toward a new path. I'd walked away from Michael, publicly ending our engagement, but the weight of that choice settled heavily as I neared our small house, its faded blue paint peeling under the Colorado sky. My mother, Clara Harper, stood at the door, her cane tapping the porch, her blind eyes searching the air for my footsteps. The news of the river incident had spread fast, carried by neighbors' gossip, and her face was etched with worry. "Emily," she called, her voice trembling as I approached. "What happened by the river? They're saying you let Michael drown." Her hands gripped her cane knuckles white, and her gray hair was loose from its bun. Clara's blindness, a result of a childhood fever, had sharpened her hearing, catching every whisper of the town's judgment. I knelt before her, taking her hands, their warmth grounding me. "He didn't drown, Mom. He swam out himself. I didn't need to save him." Her brow furrowed, doubt and fear mingling. "But the engagement? People are talking. Without Michael, they'll send you to the rural program. I can't lose you, Emily. It's my fault, my blindness, my weakness. It's forced you into this." Her words cut deep, echoing the guilt she'd carried in my past life. Like many post-industrial towns in 1995, Riverbend clung to a fading factory economy. Job quotas tied to skilled positions or family connections determined who could stay in town. After my father died of a Vietnam War-related illness a decade ago, his brothers had swooped in, claiming our family's quota slots, arguing that a blind widow and her young daughter didn't deserve them. Without a quota, I faced relocation to a rural work program, grueling labor in distant fields far from Clara. In my past life, marrying Michael, a teacher with a factory-affiliated job, had kept me in Riverbend, but at the cost of 30 years of misery. Clara had blamed herself, believing her disability pushed me into a loveless marriage. I squeezed her hands, my voice firm. "You're not a burden, Mom. I won't marry Michael. He doesn't love me, and I deserve better. I'll find another way to stay." Her lips trembled, but she nodded, trusting me despite her fear. I helped her inside the living room, dim with the glow of a single lamp, its light catching the framed photo of my father in his army uniform. His death had left us vulnerable, but his memory had also brought Jacob Carter into our lives. Jacob, the son of Dad's army buddy, had knelt at his grave vowing to protect us. In my past life, he'd kept that promise quietly, never marrying, always there when Michael's cruelty, or my uncle's greed, threatened us. Now reborn, I saw him as more than a protector, a chance at a life built on mutual respect. As Clara sat her cane resting against the chair, she spoke softly. If you don't marry Michael, who else is there? Your uncles won't help. They've already taken everything. Her voice broke, and I saw the weight of her guilt, years of feeling she'd failed me. I knelt again, my eyes stinging. There's Jacob Carter, Mom. He promised Dad he'd care for us. I'm going to ask him to marry me. Her face softened, a flicker of hope breaking through. Jacob, he's a good man, Emily, but does he care for you that way? I hesitated, unsure of myself. Jacob's kindness had been steady in my past life, but Michael had consumed me too, to notice if it was more. The divine light's warmth seemed to nudge me toward him, but I couldn't assume his feelings. I stood pacing the worn rug. He's our best chance, Mom. As a skilled mechanic, he has a factory quota. Marrying him means I stay in Riverbend with you. Clara nodded slowly, her hands twisting in her lap. I want you to be happy, Emily. Not like me, I always feel I held you back. Her words stirred memories of my past life's end, her deathbed apologies, her belief that her blindness had ruined me. I swallowed hard, vowing to rewrite that story. You've never held me back, I said. You're why I'm fighting for this. Outside, a cough broke the silence, followed by the clank of a water jug. My heart lifted Jacob. I stepped onto the porch, spotting him in the fading light, his flannel shirt rolled up, his dark hair damp with sweat despite the cold. He was fixing our water pump as he had countless times before. I'd taken his help for granted in my past life, blinded by my love for Michael. Now I saw the strength in his calloused hands, the quiet resolve in his eyes. Jacob. I called, my voice steadier than I felt. He looked up, wiping his brow, a faint cough escaping him. Emily. Everything okay? I held out a bottle of cough syrup, my cheeks warming. You're sick. Take this. And we need to talk. He took the bottle, his fingers brushing mine, and I felt the divine light's pulse again, urging me forward. When my dad died, I said, You promised to care for me and Mom. Does that still stand? His eyes softened, a depth there I hadn't noticed before. Always, Emily. Your dad saved my life in the war. I owe him everything. I took a breath, the weight of my following words heavy. Then marry me, Jacob. It's the only way to keep us here safe. He froze, his cough forgotten, then nodded slowly. I've always cared for you, he said, his voice low. If this is what you want, I'm in. His words held more than duty, hinting at something more profound, and I wondered if the divine light had guided him too. As we stood there, the Colorado dusk settling around us, I felt a spark of hope. This wasn't just about quotas or survival, it was about choosing a man who saw me not as a schemer, but as Emily Harper worthy of love. Clara's voice called from inside, soft but sure. You're doing the right thing, Emily. For the first time, I believed her. The January dusk settled over Riverbend, Colorado, painting the sky in hues of amber and indigo as I, Emily Harper, stood on the porch of our modest bungalow, the faint warmth of the divine light still pulsing in my chest. It was 1995, and the town hummed with the familiar sounds of pickup trucks rumbling down gravel roads and cassette tapes blaring from open windows. I'd just walked away from the Colorado River, leaving Michael Bennett, my former fiancé, to his self-rescue and public humiliation. The divine light that had reborn me, pulling me from the agony of my past life's betrayal, had guided me to this moment where hope flickered like a candle in the wind. My mother, Clara Harper, sat inside her blind eyes, unable to see my resolve, but her heart surely sensing it. Her words, her fear of losing me to the rural work programs, echoed in my mind, urging me to act. The answer stood before me, Jacob Carter, the son of my late father's army buddy, coughing softly as he set down a water jug by our pump. Jacob's flannel shirt was rolled to his elbows, his hands calloused from years as a skilled mechanic at the Riverbend factory. His dark eyes met mine, steady and kind, contrasting Michael's accusing glare. In my past life, Jacob had been a quiet anchor fixing our porch, delivering water, standing up to Michael's arrogance, when my uncle's greed left us vulnerable. He'd never married a choice I'd overlooked, too consumed by my doomed love for Michael. Now reborn, I saw him clearly, a man whose promise to my father had held through decades of my suffering. The factory's job quotas, a lifeline in our post-industrial town, meant marrying Jacob could secure my place in Riverbend, keeping me with Clara. But it wasn't just pragmatism. The divine light seemed to point to him, a sign of a life built on trust, not sacrifice. Jacob, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, holding out a bottle of cough syrup. You're sick, take this. He took it, his fingers brushing mine, a faint smile softening his weathered face. Thanks, Emily. Everything okay? His concern was genuine, a warmth that Michael's words had never held. I took a breath, the weight of my following words heavy. When my dad died, you promised to care for me and Mom. Does that still stand? His eyes softened a depth I hadn't noticed in my past life. Always, he said, his voice low but firm. Your dad saved my life in Vietnam. I owe him everything. I stepped closer, the porch creaking under my boots. Then marry me, Jacob. It's the only way to keep us here safe from the rural programs. My heart raced, partly from the boldness of my proposal, partly from fear he'd see it as duty alone. In my past life, I'd ignored his kindness, blinded by Michael's charm. Now I wondered if Jacob had cared for me beyond his promise. He froze the cough syrup bottle still in his hand, his eyes searching mine. Marry you, he repeated, then nodded slowly. I've always cared for you, Emily. More than you know. If this is what you want, I'm in. His words carried a quiet intensity, hinting at his hidden feelings. My cheeks warmed, the divine light's pulse flaring as if affirming my choice. I want this, I said, my voice softer now, not just for the quota, but because I trust you. Jacob's smile widened, a rare glimpse of vulnerability. I've watched you suffer, Emily stuck with Bennett. I wanted to say something, but you were his. Now, I won't let you down. His admission stirred something in me, a realization that his loyalty had always been more than obligation. He'd stayed single in my past, supporting us despite Michael's dominance. Had he loved me even then? Clara's voice called from inside, soft but sure. Emily, is that Jacob? I led him into the living room where Clara sat, her cane resting against the chair, the lamp casting shadows on the photo of my father in his army uniform. Jacob's here, Mom, I said. I asked him to marry me. Clara's face lit up, her hands reaching for mine. Oh, Emily, he's a good man. But are you sure I want you to be happy, not trapped like I was with my own choices? Her guilt, her belief that her blindness had forced me into Michael's arms in my past life, hung heavy. I knelt beside her. I'm sure, Mom. Jacob's different. He's our chance to stay together, to be happy. Jacob stepped forward, his voice gentle. Clara, I promised your husband I'd look after you both. Marrying Emily, it's more than a promise. It's what I want. Clara's lips trembled, a tear escaping her blind eyes. You're like your father, Jacob. Loyal. Thank you. Her words sealed the moment, a blessing that eased my lingering doubts. In my past life, Clara's deathbed apologies had haunted me, her belief that she'd failed me. Now I'd rewrite that story, starting with Jacob. As we stood there, the weight of my past life's betrayals, Michael's indifference, Ethan's cruelty faded. Ethan, my son, in that life had blamed me for his father's pain, sabotaging my medication in a final act of vengeance. The memory stung, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the present. Jacob's hand brushed mine, a silent promise of partnership. Let's do this tomorrow, he said. Courthouse first thing. We'll get the marriage license and start the factory paperwork. I nodded, the divine light's warmth surging. This wasn't just about staying in Riverbend. It was about choosing a man who saw me not as a schemer, but as Emily Harper, worthy of love. The Riverbend courthouse stood stark against the January morning, its brick facade weathered by Colorado winters. I, Emily Harper, walked beside Jacob Carter, my boots crunching on the frosted sidewalk, the divine light's warmth steady in my chest. It was 1995, and the town buzzed with early risers, factory workers heading to shifts, diner servers pouring coffee, kids blasting grunge from boomboxes. Yesterday, I ended my engagement with Michael Bennett at the riverbank, where his reborn accusations and public outbursts severed our past life's ties. Now, Jacob and I were here to register our marriage, a step to secure my factory job quota and keep me and my mother, Clara, in Riverbend. But as we climbed the courthouse steps, my heart beat with more than practicality, a hope that this union could be more a chance at the love I'd never known. Inside the clerk's office smelled of old paper and coffee, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Jacob handed over our IDs in a clean flannel shirt, his calloused hands steady. The clerk, a woman with a perm and a skeptical glance, processed our marriage license efficiently. You two move fast, she said, eyeing us. I smiled, my voice light. When you know, you know. Jacob's hand found mine, his touch grounding me. In my past life, I'd married Michael under pressure, the town's gossip forcing his hand. This time I chose freely, guided by the divine light that had reborn me, its pulse urging me toward Jacob's quiet strength. As we signed the papers, the door burst open and Michael stormed in, his face flushed, Diana Larson trailing behind him. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her eyes sharp with ambition, a woman who in my past life had manipulated Michael into believing I'd schemed to trap him. Emily Harper. Michael shouted, his voice echoing in the small office. You have no shame, you're stealing Diana's factory quota. The clerk frowned, and I felt Jacob tense beside me. The factory's quotas, a relic of Riverbend's struggling economy, were fiercely competitive. Marrying a skilled worker like Jacob granted me a slot, but Michael's accusation was baseless, a desperate attempt to reclaim control. The factory manager, Mr. Thompson, appeared from a back office drawn by the commotion. What's going on here? He demanded, his glasses glinting. Michael pointed at me, his voice rising. Emily's taking a quota meant for my future wife. We're done hearing me, so she has no right. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. I'm not stealing anything, Michael. I'm married to Jacob Carter, a skilled mechanic. My quota's legitimate. Jacob pulled out our marriage certificate, the fresh ink and official stamp undeniable. Thompson adjusted his glasses, nodding. She's right, Bennett. Emily qualifies through her husband. It's policy. Michael's face crumpled, his eyes darting to our clasped hands, then to the certificate. This is a sham, he cried, his voice cracking. Emily can't marry someone else. She loves me. She nearly died for me. His words were a warped echo of our past life, where I jumped into the river, sacrificing my health for him. Now his reborn memory twisted that act into proof of my obsession. I shook my head, the divine light's warmth steadying me. I don't love you, Michael. I'm happy with Jacob. Diana, silent until now, smirked, her eyes calculating. In my past life, she'd planted doubts in Michael's mind, using him to secure her place in town. Now her presence hinted at more schemes, but I refused to engage. Jacob's voice cut through, low and firm. Enough, Bennett. Emily's my wife. Respect that. His protectiveness sent a warmth through me, contrasting with Michael's entitlement. Thompson, irritated, waved a hand. Michael, you're out of line. The quota's hers fair and square. Leave it be. Michael's shoulders slumped, his reborn confidence shattered. Diana tugged his arm, whispering something, and they left, the door slamming behind them. The clerk handed us the signed license, her skepticism replaced by a small smile. Congratulations, you two. Outside, the cold bit at my face, but Jacob's hand in mine felt like home. We headed to the factory to complete my entry paperwork, the final step to securing my Riverbend place. The factory loomed ahead, its smokestack symbolizing the town's fading industrial heart. In my past life, I'd served Michael's family here, my health broken by the river, my son Ethan poisoned by his father's lies. I thought of Ethan's betrayal, his sabotage of my medication, and pushed the pain aside. This life would be different. No son would grow to hate me. No husband would scorn me. Jacob glanced at me, his eyes soft. You okay, Emily? I nodded, squeezing his hand, better than ever. As we neared the factory, Clara's words echoed her hope that I'd find happiness, not just survival. She'd blessed this marriage, her guilt easing as she saw Jacob's loyalty. The divine light had guided me to a man who'd cared for me long before I'd noticed. But doubts lingered. Did Jacob see me as more than a duty? His earlier words, more than you know, hinted at deeper feelings, but I couldn't be sure. The marriage license in my pocket and the quota paperwork ahead were enough for now. I'd escaped Michael's shadow, and with Jacob by my side, I was building a future where Clara and I could thrive, free from the rural programs and my uncle's cruelty. The Riverbend Community Center glowed under fairy lights, its wooden beams festooned with wildflowers plucked from the Colorado hills. It was late January 1995, and the air buzzed with the chatter of neighbors, the clink of glasses, and the twang of a local band playing covers of Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I, Emily Harper, stood beside Jacob Carter, my new husband, my hand clasped in his, the warmth of the divine light that had reborn me still pulsing faintly in my chest. Days ago, we'd married at the courthouse, securing my factory job quota to keep me and my blind mother Clara in Riverbend safe from the rural work programs that loomed over our post-industrial town. But gossip spread like wildfire, whispers that I'd betrayed Michael Bennett, my former fiancé, by swiftly marrying Jacob. Tonight, Jacob had used his savings to throw this wedding reception, a bold move to reshape the town's perception and claim our place in this tight-knit community. The center was packed with factory workers and flannel diner servers in faded jeans, and kids sneaking sips of punch their Walkmans tucked into pockets. Clara sat near the front, her cane resting against her chair, her face radiant with a smile I hadn't seen in years. In my past life, her guilt over her blindness had haunted her, believing it had forced me into a loveless marriage with Michael. Now her approval of Jacob warmed my heart, though a flicker of doubt lingered. Had I married Jacob only for the quota, or was the divine light guiding me toward something deeper? Jacob squeezed my hand, his calloused fingers steady, his dark eyes scanning the crowd. "You ready for this?" he asked, his voice low but warm. I nodded, my heart swelling at his quiet strength. The band paused, and Jacob stepped forward, raising a glass. The room quieted, all eyes on him. "Folks," he began, his voice clear over the hum of the crowd, "thank you for coming to celebrate Emily and me. I've known her since we were kids running through these hills, and her dad taught me how to fix an engine." He paused, his gaze softening as it met mine. "I've loved her for years, but she was loyal to Michael Bennett during their engagement. When it ended, I didn't hesitate. I went to her family and proposed because a woman like Emily, kind, strong, true, you don't let her slip away." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others exchanging glances. Jacob's words, delivered with the sincerity of a man who fixed machines with precision, carried weight in Riverbend, where his reputation as a skilled mechanic was unshakable. "Emily's no traitor," he continued. "She's the most loyal person I know, caring for her mom, standing by her promises. I'm the lucky one here." He raised his glass higher to Emily and to second chances. The room erupted in applause, glasses, clinking, voices calling out congratulations. Clara's hands clapped softly, her blind eyes glistening with tears. "He's right, Emily," she whispered as I leaned down to hug her. "You deserve this." The tide of gossip shifted. Neighbors who'd whispered about my disloyalty now approached with smiles, offering toasts and stories of Jacob's kindness, how he'd fixed their trucks for free and carried Clara's groceries when her arthritis flared. A diner waitress, her apron still tied on, pulled me aside. "We got it wrong, Emily. You and Jacob—" "It's real." I smiled, but guilt tugged at me. Jacob's speech had painted a love I wasn't sure I fully returned. In my past life, I'd loved Michael blindly, only to be betrayed by him and our son Ethan, who'd sabotaged my medication in vengeance. The divine light had given me this chance to rewrite that pain, but could I love Jacob as he deserved? The band struck up a slow song as the night wore on, and Jacob pulled me onto the dance floor. His hand rested on my waist, his steps sure despite his usual reserve. I meant every word he said, his voice barely audible over the music. "I've cared for you since we were kids, not just because of your dad's promise." His admission caught me off guard, the divine light's warmth flaring in my chest. I'd overlooked him in my past life, consumed by Michael's charm. I saw the boy who'd helped me rebuild my bike, the man who'd stood by me through Michael's scorn. I'm starting to see that, I said, my voice soft. "Thank you, Jacob." The reception ended with laughter and promises of potlucks. The town's judgment softened. But as we left, I overheard a group of factory workers muttering about Michael. "Heard he's been sulking since the river," one said. "Can't let go of Emily." Their words stirred unease. Michael's reborn accusations at the courthouse had shaken me. His belief that I still loved him was a lingering shadow. In my past life, his love for Diana Larson had fueled his resentment, egged on by her manipulations. Now free from him, I clung to Jacob's hand, determined to build a life where Ethan's betrayal and Michael's indifference couldn't reach me. Clara's voice echoed in my mind. "Be happy, Emily." With Jacob, I was beginning to believe I could. The February chill hung over Riverbend, Colorado, the streets lined with snow-dusted bungalows and the distant hum of factory machinery. It was 1995, and Emily Harper, walked toward Michael Bennett's house, a basket of fruit in my hands, urged by Jacob Carter, my new husband, to show we had nothing to hide. The divine light that had reborn me, pulling me from the agony of my past life's betrayal, pulsed faintly, a reminder of my second chance. Weeks ago, I'd married Jacob, securing my factory job quota to stay in Riverbend with my blind mother, Clara. Our wedding reception had quelled the town's gossip, painting me as loyal rather than disloyal. But Michael's outburst at the courthouse, his reborn insistence that I loved him, lingered like a bruise, and I dreaded facing him again. Jacob waited by the gate, his flannel jacket zipped against the cold, his dark eyes steady. "Go on, Emily," he said. "Show them you're above their talk." His trust bolstered me, though guilt gnawed at me. Did I deserve his faith when my marriage was partly pragmatic? I nodded, approaching the small house where Michael lived with his parents, its porch sagging under fresh snow. Voices drifted through the cracked window, heated and sharp. I froze the basket heavy in my hands as I recognized Diana Larson's voice laced with a cold amusement that sent a chill down my spine. "You thought I'd marry you, Michael," Diana said, her tone cutting. "You were useful a teacher with a quota, someone to keep me in Riverbend, but now I'm set to marry the factory owner's son. You're nothing to me." Michael's voice, weak but defiant, answered, "You lied to me, Diana. You said Emily staged that river incident to trap me, and it made me believe she had schemed for years." My heart sank, the truth crashing over me. In my past life, Diana's manipulations had fueled Michael's resentment, convincing him my river rescue was a ploy to bind him. Her ambition to secure a factory quota and social standing had used him as a pawn, just as she'd used others. Diana laughed, sharp and dismissive. "I never said that, Michael. You fell into the river chasing some fish for me, remember? Emily had nothing to do with it." Her words confirmed what I'd suspected. She'd twisted Michael's mind, exploiting his love to keep her options open while she pursued wealthier prospects. In my past life, her lies had cost me 30 years of pain, my health shattered from the river, my son Ethan poisoned by Michael's accusations. The divine light's warmth flared, urging me to confront this truth, to sever its hold on my new life. I stepped forward, the door creaking as I entered. Diana turned her blonde hair, catching the dim light, her eyes narrowing with a smirk. "Emily's here," she said to Michael, her voice dripping with mockery. "Stop dreaming about what you can't have and face reality." Michael sat on a worn couch, his face pale, eyes red-rimmed. The fruit basket felt absurd in my hands, a gesture of goodwill out of place in this room of betrayal. "I wasn't eavesdropping," I said, my voice steady. "I came to check on you, Michael, after your fall." He'd crashed his bike after our reception, drunk and humiliated, fracturing his leg. Refusing treatment to save face, he now faced a painful recovery. Michael's eyes met mine, a flicker of regret in them. "Emily," he whispered, "I'm sorry. I know you've been reborn too. I felt it, the light, the second chance. In our last life, you jumped into that river, risked everything. I thought it was a trap because Diana told me so." His admission hit like a stone, heavy with 30 years of misunderstanding. Diana scoffed, brushing past me. "Please don't drag me into your mess, Michael." She left, her heels clicking on the porch, leaving us silent. I set the basket down, my heart torn between pity and resolve. "You believed her, Michael," I said. "You let her lies define me. I loved you, gave you everything, and you threw it away." His face crumpled, tears welling. "I was wrong, Emily. I see that now. You were the only one who cared. I'd have clung to those words in my past life, desperate for his love. Now they were too late. The divine light had shown me a new path with Jacob and Clara, free from Ethan's betrayal." "It's over," I said. "I'm married to Jacob and I'm happy. Let it go." As I turned to leave, Michael grabbed my sleeve, his voice desperate. "Can't we try again? I know I failed you. Failed Ethan." The mention of Ethan stung our son, who'd sabotaged my medication driven by Michael's lies. I pulled away, my voice firm. "Ethan's gone." "Michael, I won't repeat that pain. Move on." I stepped outside where Jacob waited, his concern evident. "You okay?" he asked, pulling me close. I nodded, the divine light's warmth steadying me. Diana's deception was exposed. Michael's regret laid bare, but my future lay with Jacob, whose loyalty had never wavered. Clara's hope for my happiness echoed in my mind as we walked home. The snow falling softly, a clean slate for the life we were building. The February snow fell softly over Riverbend, Colorado, blanketing the town's bungalows and factory smokestacks in a quiet hush. It was 1995, and I, Emily Harper, walked home from the factory, my boots crunching on the icy sidewalk, the divine light that had reborn me pulsing faintly in my chest. Weeks had passed since my wedding reception with Jacob Carter, my new husband, whose heartfelt speech had swayed Riverbend's gossip, painting me as loyal rather than a traitor to my former fiancé, Michael Bennett. Days ago, I'd confronted Michael at his home, learning from his exchange with Diana Larson that she'd manipulated him in our past life, convincing him I'd schemed to trap him into marriage by saving him from the Colorado River. Her betrayal had fueled his resentment, costing me 30 years of pain. Now free from his shadow, I focused on building a life with Jacob and my blind mother Clara, safe from the rural work programs that threatened our place in this post-industrial town. Yet Michael's presence lingered like a stubborn fog. After our reception, he'd gotten drunk, crashed his bike, and fractured his leg, too proud to seek immediate treatment. The injury, now healing improperly, required a painful re-breaking process, and whispers of his downfall spread through Riverbend's diners and bars. I tried to push him from my mind, focusing on Jacob's quiet strength, his calloused hands fixing our porch, his gentle care for Clara. But the town's gossip kept Michael close. "He's a mess since you married Carter," a factory coworker had said, shaking her head. "Can't let go." I wanted no part of his regret, not after his betrayal and our son Ethan's cruelty in my past life, sabotaging my medication in vengeance for his father's pain. The divine light had given me this second chance, pulling me from death's edge to rewrite my fate. It had guided me to Jacob, whose loyalty contrasted with Michael's entitlement, and to Clara, whose hope for my happiness was finally blossoming. But as I turned onto Main Street, the neon glow of the diner casting shadows, I heard a commotion ahead. Diana Larson's wedding to the factory owner's son unfolded at the community center where Jacob and I had celebrated. The parking lot was packed with pickup trucks, fairy lights twinkling, the band's music spilling out. I hurried past, not wanting to linger, but a shout stopped me cold. Michael burst from the doors, his limp pronounced, carrying a wriggling sack of river fish. The crowd parted, stunned, as he stormed toward the bride. "Diana," he roared, dumping the fish at her feet, their scales glinting under the lights. "You wanted fish caught with my own hands." Here they are. Diana, in a white dress, her blonde hair pinned elegantly, froze her face, paling. The groom, a lanky man in a tux, stepped forward, confused. "What's this about, Bennett?" Michael snatched the microphone from the band's singer, his voice raw. "Your bride's great at raising fish, buddy. Did she tell you about the nights we spent together? The birthmark on her lower back shaped like a crescent?" The crowd gasped, whispers erupting. Diana's eyes widened, her composure cracking. "Michael, stop," she hissed, but he pressed on, detailing their past, every secret spilling like the fish at her feet. The groom's face darkened, his family muttering furiously. "Is this true?" he demanded. Diana stammered, her charm useless against Michael's rage. The wedding dissolved into chaos, guests streaming out, the band faltering. By morning, word spread that the groom had canceled the engagement, dragging Diana to file for divorce the next day. Her reputation, built on calculated charm, lay in ruins. Desperate, she turned to Michael, begging him to marry her, but he laughed bitterly, refusing her. "You used me," he'd said, according to a neighbor's gossip. Without options, Diana married an older divorced man and fled Riverbend, her family trailing in shame. I stood frozen outside the community center, the snow dusting my coat as Michael limped away, his figure small against the night. Part of me pitied him. His reborn clarity had shown him Diana's deception, but his actions were reckless, destructive. His love for her had closed his eyes to my devotion in my past life, and Ethan, our son, had paid the price, growing cruel under his influence. The divine light's warmth urged me toward the life I was building with Jacob, away from Michael's chaos. Clara's voice echoed in my mind. "Be happy, Emily." I turned toward home, where Jacob waited, his loyalty a beacon in the storm of Michael's reckoning. Spring crept into Riverbend, Colorado, the March air carrying the scent of budding aspens and melting snow. It was 1995, and I, Emily Harper, felt the weight of my pregnancy, a gentle swell beneath my coat as I walked home from a late factory shift. The divine light that had reborn me, granting me a second chance after 30 years of betrayal, pulsed softly, a reminder of my new path with Jacob Carter, my husband. His love, quiet, steady, rooted in years of unspoken care, had anchored me since our courthouse marriage, securing my factory quota and keeping me and my blind mother Clara in town. Michael Bennett's downfall had rippled through Riverbend, his drunken crash after our reception, his fractured leg, his chaotic disruption of Diana Larson's wedding. Now Diana was gone, her reputation shattered, and Michael was a shadow of the respected teacher he'd been, his reborn clarity no match for his lingering obsession. I'd tried to move forward, focusing on Jacob's kindness, his morning coffee for Clara, his late-night repairs on our old Chevy, but Michael's presence haunted me. Gossip swirled he was dating again, his parents arranging blind dates to salvage his status. I cared little, my heart whole with Jacob and the child we'd soon welcome, a chance to raise a daughter free from the pain of Ethan, my son, in my past life, whose betrayal had ended me. But as I passed the diner, its neon sign buzzing, Michael stepped from the shadows, blocking my path. His face was gaunt, his legs still braced, but his eyes burned desperately. In his hand gleamed a silver ring, catching the streetlight's glow. "Emily," he said, his voice low, urgent, This is my mother's ring. It should have been yours in our past life, but I gave it to Diana. Now it's for you." I froze, the divine light's warmth steadying me. "Michael, what are you doing?" He stepped closer, his words tumbling out. "I heard you fainted at work when I started dating again. You still love me, Emily. I know you do." I sighed, my hand resting on my belly. "I fainted from working nights, Michael, not because of you. I'm pregnant, happy with Jacob." His eyes widened, disbelief flickering. "Pregnant? No, that's impossible. Your health, after the river." His words stirred the pain of my past life when the river's cold had damaged my body, causing years of painful cycles and struggles to conceive Ethan. "That was because of you," I said, my voice firm. "Jumping in to save you ruined my health. You dismissed it, called me dramatic, but it was real." Michael's face fell, memories of my pleas surfacing. In our past life, he'd ignored my pain, never offering a heating pad or a kind word, convinced by Diana's lies that I'd schemed. "I was wrong," he whispered, tears welling. "I felt the divine light too, Emily. It showed me my mistakes. I accused you, hurt you, and poisoned Ethan against you. Can you forgive me?" His apology, raw and sincere, hit harder than I expected. I'd craved those words in my past life, clinging to a love that never returned. Now they were hollow. "I forgive you," I said, "but I've moved on. I love Jacob. He trusts me, sees me. I'm building a life with him." Michael shook his head, clutching the ring. "You loved me so much, Emily. You nearly died for me. This ring, it's proof we're meant to be. Divorce Jacob, come back to me. Everyone will see you married him for the quota that your heart's still mine." His delusions stung, a reminder of the man who'd never truly known me. I stepped back, my voice sharp. "Jacob's waiting for me. He suggested I check on you not because our marriage is fake, but because he trusts me. You lost me, Michael, not because of Diana, but because you never valued me." His hand trembled, the ring glinting. "But I love you now," he said. The divine light showed me the truth. I shook my head, remembering Ethan's cruelty, flashing his sabotage driven by Michael's lies. "The light gave us both a chance," I said. "You saw through Diana, and I saw through you. There's no future for us." I turned toward the corner where Jacob waited, his truck idling, a bag of takeout from the diner in his hand. His eyes met mine, concern softening his features. "You okay?" he asked, stepping out. I nodded, glancing back at Michael, who stood frozen, the ring still in his hand. "He's stuck in the past," I said. Jacob pulled me close, his warmth chasing away the chill. "You're my present, Emily. My future." His words eased the lingering pain of Michael's plea, the divine light affirming my choice. Clara's hope for my happiness, her relief at our marriage, echoed in my heart. I'd chosen Jacob not just for survival, but for a love that grew stronger each day and would shield our child from the shadows of Ethan's betrayal. The summer sun warmed Riverbend, Colorado, casting golden light over the town's bungalows and factory smokestacks, the air thick with the scent of blooming aspens and fresh-cut grass. It was July 1995, and I, Emily Harper, lay in a hospital bed, my body weary but my heart full, the divine light that had reborn me pulsing softly in my chest. Months had passed since I'd rejected Michael Bennett's final plea, his desperate offer of a ring unable to sway me from my new life with Jacob Carter, my husband. The divine light had guided me from the agony of my past life, 30 years of Michael's indifference, our son Ethan's betrayal, and my own shattered health toward a future with Jacob, whose quiet love had rooted itself in my heart. Now, as I cradled our newborn daughter, Lily, her tiny fingers curling around mine, I felt the weight of a second chance fulfilled. The pregnancy had been a journey of joy and fear. Jacob's care, morning coffee for my blind mother Clara, late-night drives to the diner for my cravings, had nourished me, a stark contrast to the pain of my past life when the Colorado River's cold had damaged my body, making Ethan's birth a struggle. This time my health was stronger, bolstered by Jacob's attentiveness and Clara's home-cooked meals. But Lily had grown large, too big for a natural delivery, and a C-section had been necessary. The surgery was a blur of bright lights and hushed voices, my body trembling as I lost blood. Jacob later told me, his voice breaking, that I'd nearly slipped away. "I was terrified, Emily," he said, his calloused hand gripping mine. "I can't lose you." What he didn't say then but shared weeks later was that Michael had saved me. By chance, he'd been at the hospital visiting a colleague when my crisis hit. His blood type matched mine, and he donated several units, his act a quiet echo of the debt he owed from our past life. I learned this after my recovery when Clara, her face radiant with relief, held Lily for the first time. "You've given me peace, Emily," she said, her blind eyes glistening. "I'm not a burden anymore. This child, this family, it's everything I prayed for." Her words healed a wound from my past life when her guilt over her blindness had haunted her, believing it forced me into Michael's arms to avoid the rural work programs. Clara's joy was a balm, but Lily's birth stirred memories of Ethan, the son who'd betrayed me in my past life. His cruelty pouring my heart medication down the drain, blaming me for Michael's pain, had ended me his resentment, a mirror of his father's. Now holding Lily, I vowed to raise her differently with love untainted by lies. Jacob, too, seemed to sense this shift. One night, as we sat on our porch, the stars bright above Riverbend, he confessed a secret. After the C-section, he said, his voice low, "I got a vasectomy. I couldn't bear the thought of you going through that again." His sacrifice, made in silence, deepened my love, confirming I'd chosen a man who valued me above all. Jacob's care extended to Clara, whose health had improved with his support, her arthritis eased by his home repairs, her spirit lifted by Lily's coups. "I was wrong," she said one evening, rocking Lily. "My blindness held you back, but you've built something beautiful." Her words erased the pain of her past life's deathbed apologies, when she'd blamed herself for my misery with Michael. In Riverbend, where factory quotas and rural programs defined survival, Jacob's status as a skilled mechanic had kept us here, but his love had made it home. The divine light's warmth pulsed, affirming this new family free from Ethan's shadow. Yet Michael's act lingered in my mind. His blood donation was a debt repaid, a gesture of redemption I hadn't expected. After my postpartum recovery, I planned to thank him, which was the final step in closing that chapter. But as I looked at Lily, her eyes bright with promise, I felt no lingering tie to Michael. Jacob's hand rested on my shoulder, his gaze soft. "She's perfect, Emily," he said. "Like you." I smiled, the divine light's glow merging with the warmth of our home, where Clara's laughter and Lily's gurgles filled the air. This was my second chance, not just to survive, but to thrive, surrounded by a love I'd never known in my past life. Autumn leaves swirled through Riverbend, Colorado, painting the town in shades of crimson and gold. It was September 1995, and I, Emily Harper, stood on our porch watching Jacob Carter, my husband, push our daughter Lily in a stroller, her giggles echoing in the crisp air. The divine light that had reborn me, pulling me from the betrayal of my past life, pulsed faintly, a quiet affirmation of the life I'd built. Months ago, I'd rejected Michael Bennett's plea, choosing Jacob's steady love over a past marked by Michael's indifference and our son Ethan's cruelty. Lily's birth, complicated by a C-section, had nearly cost my life, saved only by Michael's unexpected blood donation. I'd planned to thank him and close that chapter, but when I sought him out after my recovery, I found he'd left Riverbend, leaving only a letter. The letter arrived on a quiet morning, its envelope worn, as if Michael had hesitated before sending it. I sat at our kitchen table, Clara peeling apples nearby, her blind hands deft from years of practice. Jacob rocked Lily, his voice soft as he hummed a lullaby. I opened the letter, Michael's handwriting shaky but clear. "Emily," it began. "I failed you in our past lives. I believed Diana's lies, accused you of scheming, and poisoned Ethan against you. I see now the pain I caused. Donating blood was the least I could do, a debt repaid for the life you saved in that river. I'm leaving for a teaching post in rural Montana to help kids who need it. Maybe I can do better by them than I did by our son. I won't return. You deserve your happiness." His words stirred a complex ache, pity for his regret, relief at his departure. In my past life, Michael's love for Diana Larson had blinded him to my devotion, his accusations shaping Ethan into a son who'd sabotaged my medication, ending my life in agony. The divine light had given us both a second chance, showing Michael his mistakes, guiding me to Jacob. Now Michael sought redemption in Montana, teaching underprivileged children a path that felt right, a final settling of our past life's debts. Clara, sensing my silence, reached for my hand. "What does it say, Emily?" I read the letter aloud, my voice steady. She nodded, her face calm. "He's trying to make amends. Let him go." Her words, free of the guilt that had haunted her in our past life, reflected her newfound peace. Since Lily's birth, Clara's health has steadied, Jacob's care has eased her arthritis, and our family's joy has lifted her spirit. "You've given me everything," she said, smiling. "No more guilt, no more fear of those rural programs, just us." Jacob set Lily in her crib, joining us at the table. "Michael did one good thing," he said, his voice soft but firm. "He helped save you. That's enough." His acceptance of Michael's act without jealousy deepened my love. Later that evening, as we sat on the porch, the stars bright above Riverbend's bungalows, Jacob confessed more. When I saw Michael with that ring begging you back, I was scared, he said, his eyes meeting mine. I've loved you since we were kids, Emily fixing your bike, watching you laugh. I thought I'd lose you. His vulnerability, rare for a man so steady, broke through my last doubts. In my past life, I'd overlooked Jacob, consumed by Michael's charm. Now the divine light had shown me his heart. I'm here, I said, kissing him. I chose you, Jacob, not just for the quota, but for you. I'll prove it every day. He smiled, pulling me close, the warmth of his embrace merging with the divine light's glow. Riverbend struggles, factory quotas, rural programs. My uncle's greed faded in the face of this love. Lily's laughter, Clara's stories, and Jacob's quiet strength filled our home, starkly contrasting the pain of Ethan's betrayal and Michael's indifference. As the town settled into autumn, its diners and factories alive with 1995's rhythm grunge on the radio, flannel shirts everywhere, I felt complete. The divine light had reborn me to escape the past and build a future where love, not sacrifice, defined me. Michael's letter lay folded in a drawer, a final note of closure. He'd repaid his debt, and I'd found my home. With Jacob by my side, Lily in my arms, and Clara's laughter ringing, I knew the heavens had guided me right.